You know that feeling when too many things fall through the cracks? Monday.com was built for that gap. The AI work platform where people and agents work side by side to deliver more together. Create your first Monday agent today at Monday.com.
At DSW, we ask the important questions, like, what shoes are you going to wear? Whether you're prepping for wedding season, festival season, or just planning the ultimate vacay, the right shoes can make or break an RSVP. So own the moment. You've got big plans, and we've got just the shoes. At the perfect price, of course. Get ready to get ready with Designer Shoe Warehouse. Head to your DSW store or dsw.com today and let us surprise you.
Welcome back to another episode of Investies. I'm your host, Linda Garcia, Texas State Representative and author of the book Wealth Warrior. This week on the podcast, I have the privilege of speaking with the founders of Tuyyo Foods. Tuyyo Foods recently had a really big merger between 3 different food companies. I'm excited to share the stories of Regina Trillo, Stephanie Garcia Turner, and Jocelyn Ramirez. Between the 3 of them, there is a former immigration attorney, a 20-year CPG veteran who came up through Whole Foods, and a chef and cookbook author who writes recipes for the New York Times. Today, their snacks, agua frescas, and seasonings are in over 1,100 doors nationwide. They have recently opened the doors for everyday people like you and I to invest into their company. This isn't like a publicly traded company because they are private, but they have begun to make the fundraising opportunity public. So we're going to get into the details on how you can invest in Tuyyo Foods and, of course, learn from the founders.
Hi, it's Sierra Miller. I can't wait for you to check out my new collection of shoes and accessories at Designer Shoe Warehouse. If you love shoes as much as I do, then trust me, I got you. From cute sneakerinas to the perfect flip-flops to stunning heels, these shoes are all style, no drama. It's a girl's girl summer, and DSW has just the shoes. Shop the Sierra Miller collection right now at your DSW store or dsw.com.
Well, I'm so excited to talk to you all. Welcome to Investies podcast. Jocelyn, since moving to Texas, I'm so sad that I don't get to eat your food anymore.
I know. And now I am not doing catering or food service anymore. So I get that quite a bit, actually, where people are like, I wish I had your food more often. I'm like, I have the cookbook.
Yeah, I have your cookbook and I have your spices.
But it's never the same.
It's not. But at least I don't have FOMO. So if no one else is getting your cooking, then you know what I mean? I'm not really missing out.
It's pretty standard across the board. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, but thank you.
Of course, of course. So your name, Tuyyo or Tuyyo, how do you all prefer the pronunciation of that?
So Tuyyo is my original brand. And when thinking about, what to call the company, what brand to go by, I really wanted to make sure that not only was I building a product and making a product that would be resonating with the Latin community, I wanted a brand name that would also kind of have that ethos and ideal within it as well. And I tried like a bunch of different ones. And even when we were discussing the merger, we thought about should we start a new brand or should we take like one of our existing brands? And we all just kept coming back to Tuyyo because it means you and me, but it also means yours. And so much about it is about coming to the table, like bringing people together. Food and drinks are the thing that nobody can live without, and that really bring the party atmosphere, the family atmosphere, you're having a bad day and you just want, grandma to make you like something warm and comforting and just sit at the table. And we just felt like, Tuyyo, like what's mine is yours, just really resonated for all of us. And we hope that it really will resonate for our community as well.
Yeah, I definitely love how it has so many facets to it, right? Just getting to discuss a merger within our community, I think is something that, at least for me, is new and it's intriguing. And I'm excited that there's a merger within brands that serve our community. So I read somewhere that Jocelyn, you might have floated the idea on a Uber ride to the airport.
Yeah,
So
actually.
talk to me about that.
Yeah, so actually in Texas, Regina and I had met up to do a tour of several Central Market stores because I had just launched there and we were just trying to cost save and just do more things together. We had met maybe 7 years prior to that, where she reached out to me via DM and was wanting to start this company called Nemi Snacks. And she had seen me doing my work on social media. She's based in Chicago, I'm in LA, and she's like, we don't know each other, but can I send you samples of these products and get your feedback, like your hot take on the crunch, the flavor, etc. And so we did that and we became friends. And then once I decided to move away from food service and really go all in with the products, that's where we started collaborating a lot more. And so we're finishing up this, Regina, maybe like 5-stop tour to different areas across Texas. And then Regina's like, we should set up a regular call just to check in and figure out, how to support each other with certain resources or to kind of see who else we're connecting with in the CPG space. And I was like, I'm just going to throw this out there, but what if we brought our brands together as one? I was like, we don't have to decide that right now, but just throwing that out there. And she was like, let's keep talking about that. And nothing really happened. Like, we had a few other touch points where we talked about it. And then Stephanie reaches out to me before a trade show and was like, let's connect. Let's kind of gather our thoughts before the trade show. Her and I were actually in a fellowship together for minority business owners. That's what they call it, minority business owners. And so we were already friends in the industry. So we're just trying to figure out, where are you staying? Are you doing any of the breakfast, dinners, etc.? And then towards the end of that call, she's like, we should talk about bringing our brands together. Like, have you ever thought about that? Maybe a holding company or something so that there's more than one founder putting in the work. And I was like, oh my God, I have been talking to Regina about this. Like, I agree. I think this is such an amazing idea. We'd have more than one employee essentially trying to grow this project, this business. And so we went to the trade show. I didn't reach out to Regina. I come back home from the trade show and literally Regina sends me a text. Can we talk? I'm like, call me right now. We get on the phone and she's like, let's do it. And I was like, what the heck? Like, the universe is just like in total alignment. I hadn't reached out to her at all. And it just all really fell into place. We set up a call that probably went like an hour and a half, 2 hours. And we just set up a recurring call. Let's keep talking once a week, until we got to the point where we're now merged. We had a couple retreats, and it's been awesome. And people think it's also a bit tricky because we're not in the same city. We're in Chicago, LA, and in Ann Arbor, Michigan. But honestly, we make it work. We have standing meetings on the calendar, and we just make sure that we're consistent and that we're also checking in with each other's values and really trying to make sure that we're building something that is truly going to be stronger than what we could have done individually. So that's a very long-winded answer to your question.
No, this is really great because you have to build that trust. You have to have had that trust for you all to bring your babies essentially together. And I hadn't even considered the component of potentially having more employees working on the same brand, or also the reverse effect of that is being able to potentially, I don't know, but potentially consolidate positions and maybe save some costs that are being spent on executing and building the brand. For those that don't know, can you please, Regina, tell us what CPG means?
Yes, it means consumer packaged goods.
Got it.
So every product that you see in the market, and it could be food and beverage, but it is also in beauty space. So anything you buy that comes in a packaged product, that falls under consumer packaged goods, CPG.
Awesome. Thank you. So just as the consumer, from the distributor to the relationship of the three of y'all, that feels almost like there's a lot of alignment, I guess, like little signs, right? That you all were supposed to, in fact, merge. Going deeper into, yes, please.
I think we were going to the same space of going deeper into that alignment, because that is what I think made the transition a very smooth process. There were so many challenges, and there still are, and that we can talk about what did we have to do operationally, financially to get this together. But for us, the starting point was really easy, because a very recurrent question that we get from people in the industry, and in the industry, I mean founders that have a CPG brand, investors that have invested in CPG, or even retailers, distributors that we work with, was, oh my God, I imagine how difficult it had been to let your baby go, to let the name of your brand go. And the three of us that was one of the easiest things. And there were two reasons for that. One, the first time the three of us talked about the merge, we felt and we knew that it was because it was something bigger than the three of us. It was something bigger than what we had created individually. And the second was we already had data from consumers of what was working and what was not working. So I think us coming in that alignment and understanding how this is not about us, we are pouring ourselves in every way we can. We are committed. We are giving everything that we have, but we are creating this entity on its own that has its own individual things as well. And how can we be part of service into that? So that was actually an easy process of transitioning. There was maybe a letting go a little bit of how maybe we had mistakenly defined ourselves as founders of a specific business. And that process that I think we had to work on it with a transition of something else, or even with this merger. But everything aligned. And that was exactly the word that I was going to use, that. And I think we're going to the same place of kind of going deeper into exactly this process.
Yeah. So when you are an entrepreneur and creating, I think, something tangible, I've created a couple of tangible things with my book and things like that, but this is something that you can actually purchase in a store. And I feel in this space, and correct me if I'm wrong, perhaps there's a lot of times where you have to fully step into alpha, the three of you, in a lot of spaces. I'm curious to find out or hear from the three of you all, now that you've kind of opened that box for us a little, is how do you all manage the dynamic of being three female, strong-minded bosses that have been the ones that get to make the executive decisions in the company? I know that, Regina, for you wear the hat as the CEO, and then we have also the COO that you're navigating. And so how did that come to be? And was that a difficult transition for the three of you all? I think that a lot of the times, obviously, we don't get to see mergers. We don't get to see the coming together. And I do feel in the last, at least 10 to 15 years, we have begun to see a lot of collaboration within our culture and coming together and almost coming back to our own roots of sharing resources and helping each other up and developing trust between the community. But this is, as we mentioned at the opening of this part of the conversation, this is a whole other level of trust, because you're having to also entrust your business partner to make maybe different decisions on the types of decisions that you've made. So what has that been like? If the three of you all would like to answer and give us your own perspective.
Yeah, I can start with saying that when we were having our initial conversations and decided to have our first retreat, I suggested that we do personality tests. So we did Enneagram tests, and we took a deep dive into deep-rooted personality traits, flaws that we see within ourselves, successes that we've had because of the way that we are, and to try to get a better understanding of how we're going to communicate in our team dynamic. And so I think that really helped set a foundation for us to figure out our key strengths in different areas. And when we decided who would fit within each role, it was already because we felt like those areas, like Regina for COO, me for CMO, Steph for CCO, like for working on sales, those are the areas that we're already excelling in within our own individual companies. And, we needed maybe a little bit more support in the other areas aside from that. And so it just really created a nice dynamic where we know personality-wise, there's a really great dynamic. Like putting ego aside, it's not about Jocelyn, right? Trying to grow this thing. It's about how far can we grow this together? So it's not about like my old brand, Todo Verde. It's not about any of that. It's about like, here are these products. And one thing that came up is like, what if, for example, one of our categories of products isn't doing that well? Like it's just maybe the seasoning or the chips or whatever, like aren't doing that well. And we decide that we want to go all in with one of the categories of products. Would we be okay with kind of moving away from the thing that we started? And the answer was yes. It's not about the individual and what we brought to the table initially. It's what we could do to build this brand together. So that for me, like once we made sure that we were all on the same page about that, it just created so much more clarity of like, I don't need to feel like I need to prove myself in any way. Like we're all trying to do something really positive here and we all have different skill sets. And, we were just at a trade show where the three of us really have to be on almost 24/7, except for when we're sleeping. But then it was also really nice to say, you know what? That's Steph's area. I'm not quite sure what the answer is, but let me get right back to you. And to be okay with that. I don't know like the answer to every single question, and that's fine. Like there are three of us now and we're navigating that, but it's been great.
That's amazing. Stephanie?
Yeah, just really like overemphasize the not letting egos be a part of the situation, I think is key. Like, I do think like what we're doing is not necessarily unprecedented, but it's definitely not something that you see. And for sure, not something that you see a lot in food and beverage for a variety of reasons. And so as people have like learned about what we are doing and bringing, our companies together and just building something that's bigger, they're awed by it because they can't really fathom several founders coming and being able to just kind of let go. But for us, I think what really set that base were those retreats that we had where we really discussed and had those like, what are our non-negotiables? What is it that we want to get out of this business? And we know that in order to achieve those objectives, like we have to work together. Not to say like that anybody, like if a marketing event comes up and Jocelyn wants to do it, like we're going to do it. We actually like still have these conversations together and in our weekly calls. And we talk about what's going to add value to the business. So it's, I think, also helped us become even more savvy and even better business people because now we have like several thoughts, several brains working on the opportunity or the issue. And we're able to come up with like, solutions a lot faster. We're able to move. We're able to like pivot like super, super fast because we're very comfortable with saying, here's the thing, here's what I think we should do, but let's hear your perspectives, and then we come and decide what the path for the business is. So, all that to say, it's been really, really great. And then Jocelyn brought up the trade show, and it was probably like the best trade show any of us have done in the last like 5, 6, 7 years that we've been doing this business. And I think part of it is because we like understand our roles and we were able to capture the right people to have those right conversations and to like hand people off and just have like a really productive, fruitful, experience. So yeah, it's really great to not have to do things on our own anymore.
Yeah, I just wanted to double click on you mentioning how this type of merger isn't really common. And I just want to highlight that while it may not be as common for smaller businesses or within our community. I mean, there were several mergers that came to mind for me, like Heinz and Kraft back in 2015, although that has now reversed. But I just think earlier Regina had mentioned and Jocelyn had mentioned that this felt like there was a bigger picture, almost like a bigger goal in mind. And as I had mentioned earlier, before we started the podcast, we do have a lot of community members that are comparing you all to the next Siete Brands who was recently purchased. And so to me, it is so exciting to get to have these types of conversations and unpack what it actually means to come together and share the resources and the direction and the power. So I appreciate you all being open. Regina, how are you feeling about wearing the two hats of CEO and COO? And as Jocelyn mentioned earlier, CMO stands for Chief Marketing Officer, and then Stephanie is Chief Commercial Officer. Regina?
Thank you, Linda. And I think you touched on something very important. And I want to talk a little bit too about the process that took us here. Because what you mentioned about maybe some other businesses merging, or maybe we hear about big businesses merging, but they have a track record of 50 years, 20 years in the industry, and they have the resources to do that in a bigger way, in an even more scalable way. We were not there. But we knew, again, going back to this is bigger than us, and how can we do this bigger? We had firsthand experience of how challenging it is, first to have the business, then to scale the business. Most of our three businesses were bootstrapped. And I was personally kind of towards year number 6 experiencing there's two routes. I have to fundraise now, having good margins, and the private grants that we've received so far to grow are not enough to continue scaling according to the demand that we have. You need more cash, and the faster you want to grow, the more cash that you will need. No, that is a reality. So what are the options? And after that retreat that Joss mentioned, our second retreat that she also mentioned was with who is now our CFO. So the first retreat was for us to connect about, what do you think our mission here would be? Why do we want to do this? What do you enjoy doing? What do you think you're good at? We went through a questionnaire that it was 50 questions for co-founders, where it was kind of like speed dating with co-founders. We brought in our retailers to get their feedback and perspective on, do you think we're locas, lunáticas, or do you think this is something that we can actually do? But we will need you to be part of this process too, because we are transitioning our brand with you. So we didn't do this process alone. From September through December, we brought in a designer that helped us with all the rebrand. We brought in an operator that took a look at our three businesses independently to really see what is working here, what is not good here, waste of money. This is where you'd be focusing at to bring everything together and really make it cost efficient. We brought in an attorney because there were a lot of things that we had to figure out legally, and the fractional CFO who stayed with us. And that was a 4-month process that really helped us understand, where do I sit comfortably and where is the best space for me to make this happen. So the COO means Chief Operational Officer. So looking at the day-to-day operations, that at the end of the day means, how can I make sure that we always have the product when we need it, that everything is compliant with what is expected, not only from FDA and food industry regulations, but also with consumers. And then the CEO, the Chief Executive Officer, it's about the vision, making sure we always have the resources, making sure we're balancing that. So it is a challenge, I think, every day. And I think my challenge is, I don't really use the word balance because I think it doesn't exist. It has no much depth or meaning. The only time where I use it is balancing my CEO role and my COO role into the day-to-day present, very systemic approach to how everything should be working on its own, ideally one day, but also the future, the vision, the how can we then take this from here all the way to over there, and what do we need? So I think it's balancing that mindset of an even spiritual approach of the present and the future.
Yes, thank you, Regina.
You know that thing where you get an amazing pair of shoes at a really great price and want to tell everyone about it? Yeah, so do we. Here at Designer Shoe Warehouse, We'll give you something to brag about, like the latest styles from brands you love, or the trends everyone's obsessing over, or shoes that make you feel like, well, you. So go ahead, show off a little. Find shoes that get you at prices that get your budget. Head to your DSW store or dsw.com today. DSW, let us surprise you.
Stephanie, you're not new to fundraising. You have raised funds before. You had a SAFE. So for our listeners, a SAFE is a simple agreement for future equity. And so can you talk to us a little bit about what Regina touched upon in terms of there were a lot of legal things that you all had to sort of look at for those that invested in your company originally with the SAFE raise? What was that like bringing them in? If you would like to disclose, do they still have a portion of your equity, or is that equity distributed amongst the company? What does that look like?
Yeah, so part of the process for our merger was actually setting up a holding company. So we have a C Corp, Delaware C Corp, as Tuyyo Foods Holding Co. And then Tuyyo, my company, since we kept that brand and everything, and it was all established, it is the operating entity. So it falls right under the holding company. So the safes that were issued to Tuyyo, we call it Tuyyo 1.0, like the first iteration of it. And with the documents and everything, the merger process, those safes are now signed over to the Tuyyo Foods holding company. And what that really means is that the people who invested early, they're, angel investors. It's really just like a handful of people, a friend, a family member. Actually, like Whole Foods Market has an investment in the company as well, which is very exciting. Emory University has a fund called the Peachtree Minority Venture Fund, and they invested in the company as well. And those just get moved over to the holding company. So they are still agreements for future equity. So they don't necessarily have equity right now because we don't have a priced round or anything to be able to give them the equity. So right now, the three founders, we all have equal shares. So then once we have that price round, those safes will then mature and be executed along the terms that they have within them, and then that'll trickle down. The good news is that it's not a lot of money invested, and our hope is that we hit the valuation point that we're shooting for to be able to raise the money that we're going to be able to raise or that we would like to raise at a really good equity. We're not going to give away too much early on. So one of the things that we're doing instead of actually bringing on another SAFE is our WeFunder campaign in a revenue share model. And we didn't actually know that we could do this until we started talking with someone who actually is, part of that investment group now through the WeFunder. And he was telling us about this revenue share model. What it is, as an investor, you can invest, say, $1,000, and the company, like the way our terms are set up, we will pay back 1.5 times that investment. So then that investor will get $1,500 paid back to them. And the payments will come as a percentage off of our net revenue. So the more money we make, the more and quicker the repayments will be towards the investors. So it's really a very big win-win partnership because they want us to succeed, we want to succeed, and pay back our investors and give them that interest because they've believed in us. And it's also not another SAFE or another name on our cap table. And so that keeps the equity that we're giving away lower, which is great because our goal is to build a really profitable, highly valued company and retain as much equity as possible as we can.
That investor is now our lead investor. And he mentioned, after investing in so many companies, a lot of times you wouldn't see the return as an investor until that company sells. So there might be an idea that, we're going to grow this and within 5 years we'll sell it and you'll get, the return on your investment. And he's looking at some brands that are taking a little longer than that. Like it just hasn't panned out exactly in that timeline. And so a revenue shares model gives folks an opportunity to start to see their money back before having to wait for an acquisition or to selling the company or anything like that.
Another thing that helped us decide how we were going to do it. And again, there was a process. We talked to investors, we talked with founders, we talked to consumers as well to make the decision that worked the best for the company and for potential investors. Something else that I think was important in the conversations that we were having was just the clarity, the transparency, and the how can we make it accessible? How can we make something that is easy to understand, that is accessible, and the intention of the capital? And by that, I mean, not every capital is the same. And not every time you need money, you're going to be using it for the same thing. So we knew that really the money that we needed is for working capital, which is producing inventory, making sure that we always have the cash that we need to talk to our co-manufacturing, who is the person that makes the product, and be able to have that product here in our stores and then invest in the marketing that we need to make sure that the product is selling, and we can do that all over again. So the intention for that money is putting it to work. And usually that money, the moment you receive it, it goes to production. There's really not a ton of strategy behind that money. So we also thought, if we only need right now this, right, considering the sales that we're having, because actually we even remodeled a little bit because sales started coming in. So even what we thought we initially had to raise, it changed a little bit because we were not expecting, honestly, the POs to come in as fast as they did. But also understanding, let's keep the company as it is right now when it comes to equity. We are willing to give equity away when it is a good strategy, when it is with somebody or a group of people that actually can help us, again, going to this space that is bigger from where we are today. But for us right now, we've been in the industry for some time. Consumers were the ones who helped us be exactly where we are today. And how can we continue making them part of this process and this growth? And it is a constant conversation, right? Because it's interesting how even with the revenue share model, we've had to explain that to investors who are mostly used to funding through safe notes or convertibles or things that it's the common legal instrument that we hear in the industry or we talk about. And I think the more we talk about it, the more hopefully, and coming from other founders, we'll see that there are different funding alternatives, that there is not just one way of doing it. And it depends on different variables, but just talking about how can we make this work for more people other than a very small portion that are used to doing it through only a specific way.
Yes, absolutely. So a lot of people don't even know that they can invest into a private company. And I just want to really quickly make that really clear is that through organizations like WeFunder, it has been made so much more accessible to invest or to loan to companies so that you can, as you mentioned, join them on the journey and help them grow, right? Help amplify them. That is an opportunity that is relatively new and unique for us as small investors. And I think it's really bold to ask out loud, especially for us in our communities where we have been taught to never ask for money. So now to come out and fundraise and normalize it, contribute to the normalization of us all engaging and helping to amplify a company or help get it to where we know it is going to be eventually, we see the vision, we get it, I think makes a really strong statement. And I just want to commend the three of you all for, being bold and brave and taking a step like that. And also allowing for us as community members to participate in this process, I think, is a real treat. On your WeFunder page, it does say testing the waters. Can you please explain what testing the waters means? The raise isn't necessarily open. There hasn't been a transaction necessarily of money exchange. Can you help the listeners understand what testing the waters means for you all and if this will actually manifest into an exchange of money?
So for that testing of waters, so WeFunder has a couple of different tiers that they require investments to get to, and then a couple of form filing and, different things that we have to do to kind of get to that next level. So their testing the water stage is when you're raising 50K and under. So once you raise that 50K and you get a lead investor and you file a Form C, then you get to that public stage of the WeFunder campaign. And so if you look at it now, in just like 3-4 weeks time, we've already raised nearly $70,000, which is amazing. And we have a lead investor who's agreed to be the lead on this campaign. There's still like a couple more things that WeFunder is verifying for them to just pretty much flip the switch and say, this is now a public campaign. It's no longer testing the waters. It's actually something that anyone can invest in. And then once we get to 124 raised, there's additional paperwork that will be, needing to be filled out. And we're still in conversations, like Regina said, with the POs coming in, if we might adjust our total quantity that we want investments in. So initially we were wanting to raise 500K, and that's still the goal as of today, but we're, having conversations of whether that needs to come down based on the sales that we've had so far.
Sure. Thank you for explaining that. And then I also, just for our listeners, want to get really clear on the revenue share loan itself and how I understand it. And please, if you can help me clarify, it is going to be a loan with a return on investment, but there is no ownership in the company, as briefly explained. I just want to make it really clear for people to understand that while there is a return on investment, it is not necessarily holding shares or ownership of the company.
Correct. And WeFunder still sees it as an investment tool, even though there isn't that equity exchange or that ownership exchange that you mentioned. And our terms are people will get 1.5x return on their investment, like Stephanie mentioned. And then after 18 months of, this round, we will start paying investors back based on our revenue, and it'll be 1.5% of our revenue that will be getting paid back to the investors. So for us, our target is really to try to increase that revenue as much as we can so that we can pay investors back as quickly as possible. We are currently launching at Whole Foods in 2 regions and with new distribution in new regions as well too, new and existing regions. So there's a lot of activity happening. This trade show that we're just at really confirmed and solidified a lot of the partnerships that we've been building over the years, like now coming into fruition. So this is just really an opportunity for us to get the inventory and the other resources that Regina mentioned so that we can take that company to the level that we're trying to get to.
Yes, of course. You mentioned being in stores. You're in now more than 1,100 stores, including Whole Foods, Walmart, H-E-B, which is a really big deal here in Texas. How does it feel to see your product, your brand in some of these stores? And for each one of you, which store has spoken to you the most and why?
That's been a surreal process because we are working in the transition into all the stores that you mentioned. So there is a possibility that you don't find us as of today yet because we're working on that transition. But I feel like we did the merge in what people are saying record time. That's the word that they've been using. And we were so in it. And there was so much going on every single day, all day, that it took us, we never took a step back to kind of take this bird's eye view and say like, okay, this is what is happening right now. This is what the community is creating. And we only did that, I would say at the trade show, Linda, 2 days ago, where it was the first time where we saw all of our products displayed in one shipper, everything on the table. And it was the first time when the three of us were like, wow, this is now what it looks like. And now there is a tangible thing that we can touch. And it was I think it was great that the three of us were together to see this, but I'm still processing everything that happened and all the challenges that we went through in the past 8 months and the support that we've received from patience from our consumers, because we were not going to do another round of Todo Verde, of how people saw it in 2025, or Nemi Snacks, which we did the last run earlier this year. And just the level of support that we've received, to me, has been the most energizing and valuable thing that I've experienced so far, because I wasn't expecting that. I thought it would be challenging. And then even the three of us, it kind of going back to your first question of how is this merged, and when we were sharing how it was actually easier, there is a level of trust that it is really the foundation of what we're doing. And there's been instances where we have different opinions of one same thing, but if it falls under Stephanie's lane, this is what I think, this is a budget for this is what we have, this is what we don't have, it's your decision. And I trust that. And we're still in this data collecting phase, not that ever stops, because it should never stop, but we are looking at now with the new rebrand and with the launch of the different products, how is the consumer reacting to this? What are they liking? What are they not liking? What are our retailers saying? Is there anything? We're putting really a lot of focus and attention on how is the experience from the other side. And that's exactly where we are today.
So are you telling me that you are in more than 1,100 stores, and this is you as now Tuyyo rebranded and after the merger?
The three of us came in, when we came in together, we were already total in 1,100 stores.
Got it. Okay.
So for the past 6 months, we are working with all our retailers to transition, and we're not in 1,100 yet. We're in about halfway, but we are working towards getting to those 1,100. And that's actually our focus for this year right now, of we need to be able to execute flawlessly with this transition with the retailers we're currently working that, because as you said, they're big retailers, and they're retailers that have been with us pretty much since the beginning. And again, the reason why we're here is because they had a say on our branding, right? Like H-E-B had an opinion. Central Market had an opinion. Meijer had an opinion. Whole Foods had an opinion too, because we made them part of this process. So we're now in this second phase of, okay, we have the rebrand. Everything is working. Now we are slowly transitioning and staggering the launches into these different retailers.
Got it.
So if you walk into like Erewhon, for example, Lassen's, you're currently still going to see Todo Verde on shelf. You're not going to see Tuyyo Foods just yet. So we're still in the process of transitioning over to the new brand with the productions that we have coming up as well. I do want to shout out specifically Whole Foods. Like Whole Foods, first and foremost, for like already putting in POs and bringing us in as Tuyyo and like really understanding like the value behind what we're building. They've been a really amazing partner. I will say that we had a pitch that we were part of, an investor pitch just a few weeks ago for companies that are building something with high impact, right? Like they're trying to do something that's better for the planet, because we work with regenerative farmers for our agave and our nopales. And so we worked with Patrick Wyman, who's the Northern California local forager of Whole Foods. And he literally coached us through that pitch to get it, to refine it, to get it just right, to make sure that every word that we're saying in that pitch meant something because of our time limitations. So just the time that they're putting into making sure that we're really solid in our execution, I think is so valuable. With their investment, with, in the previous Tuyyo 1.0, like they really want to see us succeed. And they're not just saying that, they're actually putting dollars and time and a lot of resources behind us. So I just want to make sure I shout that out.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Stephanie?
Goodness. I mean, I think every store that we're able to get into is just really special because it takes a lot of time and energy and planning. And it really is like a testament that not only does like that buyer want to take a chance on us, but that their customer would be excited to see something like our Tuyyo products on the shelf. And, we all know that there are Latinos, Latines across the United States that would love to see products that are representative of them. And we want to bring that to as many places as possible. Like Jocelyn said, Whole Foods has been an amazing partner, so supportive. And, we have a direct line to them. We can email them anytime and call them, and they will help us. And they want to make sure we succeed. H-E-B is another great one. I'm from San Antonio, so they're based in my hometown. So they're awesome and a really fantastic retailer. And I think, a lot of these names, people think even like places like Walmart are really rigid or hard to work with. And that hasn't been our situation at all. And they've been really delightful because behind every sign, every banner is a person. And we're just having conversations with people, and we're making sure that we're understanding what they want and that our product is something that they want. So it's great. I think sales is great. It's a people industry,
Yes, thank you so much for sharing. I wanted to highlight that you all had mentioned that this merger is being referenced as something that took place in record time. And when you said that, Regina, for me, it was clear that this is what happens when we are not in close proximity to these experiences, because we don't have the limitations nor access to the people that say that can't be done in XYZ time, or this is what it's going to look like, or you shouldn't do that, or XYZ framework, right? I think this is the beauty of forging our way into new spaces as communities where we don't have a blueprint. A lot of the times we see that as a negative, which is normal. We get to see other people having their parents have done it or uncles or whatnot, just close proximity to community that gets to do it. We don't, which I think expands our mind and doesn't limit us into how fast we can execute something, turn something over relative to what the limited expectations are in the space. So I want to congratulate you all for all of the moving pieces that you are moving for us, that we get to be a part of it, that you get to bring us along. Can you all share with us what you have coming for to 2027, what new products, what new drinks, what we can expect, and also where we can find you on your socials and how we can make an investment in the growth of your brand?
Yeah, so we have several new products that we've been kind of playing around with. So right now, one thing we didn't mention is we have the 3 categories of products, right? There's the taco seasoning that you mentioned. We have instant agua fresca with electrolytes made with real fruit. And then we also have high protein, high fiber, crunchy snacks. And so right now, our hero products are the agua fresca. That's one layer of conversations that we've had with investors is if I invest $1 in you, how is that dollar getting split amongst all these different categories of products? And so for clarity, we've just all agreed that the agua fresca, already had really great traction. It has the biggest potential in terms of attainable market that we can reach. And, we're seeing brands in this functional beverage space that are selling millions upon millions of dollars using artificial ingredients and things that I personally wouldn't consume. But we see the potential for someone like me to start using an everyday product like ours. The gap is there and we're here to fill it. So we have 2 no sugar added products that are in the works because our current products have electrolytes. Like we understand that there is value in having sugar in the product. You need sodium, you need sugar to be able to absorb, the electrolytes and the benefits, the functional benefits of the product. But then we do have consumers that want 0 added sugar. So because we use real fruit, there's always going to be a little bit of sugar in the product, just generally in the formulation. But we're playing around with monk fruit. We actually used this trade show and other opportunities to survey people to just understand like what sweeteners they are interested in and which ones they're not. So like stevia is not great for people. Like they just don't love it. And so we're looking at monk fruit and testing out, what the flavors will taste like with monk fruit. And then we also have 2 mole pastes that are kind of on the back burner. We don't want to like open up a whole new category without fully, getting our existing categories in a really settled and good, solid place. But we're hopeful that in 2027, we can roll out those 2 allergen-friendly mole paste, no peanuts, no seed oils, just really delicious, clean label mole paste that literally get you from like paste to on the dinner table in about 5 minutes. It's insane. And they're just so delicious. So those are our hopes for 2027.
Thank you. And where can we find you all on WeFunder? What does that process look like? Or on social media? What's the fastest way to get to the mechanism so that we can invest in your company?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you find us on any social media platform, Tuyyo Foods, if you go to our link in bio, you'll find our WeFunder link, but it's literally wefunder.com/tuyyo.foods. So everything is really across the board labeled under Tuyyo Foods. So it's pretty easy to find us. Even if you just Google Tuyyo Foods and WeFunder, you'll be able to find us.
Great. And anything else you'd like to share that maybe I didn't ask a question for?
Linda, I just want to touch on something you mentioned when we talked about the time that it took us to launch the merge and where we are now. The 3 of us since the beginning, we never questioned if we could do it. We never questioned if we were capable. The 3 of us since the beginning felt the worthiness of, yes, we want an agua fresca with no artificial colors. We deserve an agua fresca that is real. The same with the cronchitos, a snack that has the nutrition that we're looking for with that burst of Latin flavors that we love. A taco seasoning that will make you look just like a chef, and it only took you 6 minutes to make. We never questioned the worthiness of that. I think the question was, we know this is happening. We are going to do this. We just need to figure out how to do that. And going back to that collaboration spirit and principle of everything we do, and starting with us as co-founders and how everything that we do, how we communicate, how we treat each other, the respect that we have and the trust between one another is going to trickle down to every single aspect of the business. But that was also one of the main reasons why it's time for the community to be part of this change. And we were not able to do that on our own. We tried. And it was very difficult for the 3 of us. And we decided to do it in a different way. And it's such an honor for us also to be able to open this space and this investment round to the community, because we just don't envision that being done in a different way. And we're excited for the people that have invested. If there's anything that you think that we could communicate more clearly, that maybe there is other opportunities to share, the round will close at a point, and we don't know what the next round will look like, but being able to have more people involved, because again, we're not going to be able to do this as big as we want on our own.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Whenever you all want to come back, please know that Investies is your home. We would love to amplify you all in any way that we can here, because our listeners are your target demographic. And so we want to see more brands like you all grow and be successful, so that it empowers other people to also create brands that are big and in stores and having mergers and having investors and all of the exciting things that you are doing. So thank you so much for joining us here on Investies podcast.
Thank you, Linda.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Investies. I'm your host, Linda Garcia. Investies podcast is a Cosmic Standard production. Special thank you to the team, Crystal Patino, Asia Simpson, Eliza Smith, and Jacob Winnick.
Mitty knows that just when you thought you had your body all figured out, bam, perimenopause. Suddenly, your hormones are raging like it's puberty round 2. You're waking up at 3 a.m. and dealing with mood swings that have mood swings. Your ears are itchy, your jeans don't fit, you need an industrial-sized fan to cool down, and you've suddenly forgotten the word for microwave. Most women in perimenopause don't know that they are, even though it can last for 10 years. They also don't realize that most of their symptoms are treatable. That's why we built MIDI Health. MIDI is a company built by women who've been through it. Our menopause experts actually listen and treat the real symptoms you're feeling. Your symptoms aren't just common, they're treatable. Schedule a visit with a menopause specialist at MIDI. Visit joinmidi.com. Specialist-led care, virtual visits, insurance eligible. Midlife needs MIDI. Results may vary. Medications prescribed only if clinically appropriate based on a consultation with a clinician. Insurance coverage varies. Check with your plan for coverage.